so important. They say they're going into Pakistan. They say there's going to be a crisis there.
Right.
And then on cue, it starts. And you were talking about the Israeli situation, and this could be a reverse false flag. It could be a setup, but they were wearing the large Hindu sect Zionist wristbands. They had LSD, cocaine, classic mind control. You have the intelligence chief who had just caught them months ago. The Indians, he busted
Karkare.
Yes.
They killed him.
Yes. Well, let's get into that because the evidence, there's hundreds of pieces. Only terrorism chiefs that had exposed that the Indian government was staging terror attacks, they all die within minutes.
Right. So basically, the British, we've done. The Israelis, General Mizrahi, the head of the Israeli armed forces, ground forces, goes to the disputed area of Kashmir. That's a big affront to the Muslim Pakistani side of it, right? The whole Kashmir issue is something that we should go through. It's basically India is occupying Islamic populations. The UN resolutions on Kashmir is that they're supposed to be free elections. Who's blocking the free elections is India, not Pakistan. So the Israelis are very big. You could also say, look at the ineptitude, look at the stupidity of the Indian special forces, right? They were trained by the Israelis, and now they're screwing it all up.
Well, no,
that went on for 65 hours.
They stand down and don't shoot, and then 5 of the terrorism chiefs and deputies who'd all criticize the government, they are the ones that only magically get triple tapped apiece.
Right.
Impossible.
Okay. But now, concerning this, the U.S., let's not forget the U.S. In these so-called federally administered tribal areas, in other words, the northwest frontier, the northwest area of Pakistan that's along the Afghan border, the CIA, in addition to flying these Predator drones, they also have stations. I mean, they have strong points, right? They have centers of operations among the federally administered tribal areas, and we can assume that they're busily recruiting patsies, fanatics, crazies, mercenaries, hooligans, whatever, to also become terrorists. One of the things the Pakistanis ought to do is to kick the CIA out of those federally administered tribal areas, not let them in there anymore.
Okay, in the few minutes we've got left.
Now, 2 more.
Okay.
The Hindus, the RSS, okay? There's this thing, the RSS is a Hindu extremist, racist organization with strong fascist overtones.
They killed Gandhi.
In effect. They're the descendants of the killers of Gandhi, exactly.
Because he wouldn't kill Muslims.
Right, because he was not in favor of religious war. So here we have the religious war party, and sure enough, the U.S. and the British are backing
And they're the ones tied in with Israel.
That would be, as far as I can see, the ones with this blue, pink armband that the one guy was wearing. But the RSS has been killing people all over India for years and years. You never hear about that.
And it's RSS infiltrators that keep doing false flags to the Muslims.
Look, you have a terrorist swamp, then you have the RSS provides the ideology for that. Then you have the BJP, which is the governing party, and they are now bidding fair to take over the government again in the backlash to what has just gone on.
And they give the conduit or the tunnel for the people to be brought in. But putting an end cap on this because it's about them, we're going to come back.
End cap is the RAW, R-A-W. You heard about the ISI, right? Everybody knows the ISI. How about the RAW, the Research and whatever they call it, the Research and Research and Analysis Wing, the Research and Analysis Wing of Indian Intelligence. They are up in Afghanistan, recruiting crazies from Afghanistan to bring them down and have them engage in terrorism against Pakistan. So the Indians have a real dirty aspect. Maybe the Israelis.
Well, it's these same groups setting off bombings in the last few months, trying to overthrow the Pakistani government, and they're admittedly Western-backed. And the Pakistani government has been saying the West is staging this as a pretext, and that was the final point, to bring pressure in on Pakistan or even overthrow them. So when you come back in a few hours, we will break down that. But in the last minute we have. Talk about that. What is the point of all this?
The point of it is to play India against Pakistan.
Bring in a radical government. Bring in a radical war government into India.
And if you play India against Pakistan, you destroy both. In other words, the Indian military would inflict grievous damage on Pakistan. But India is a country with 1 billion Hindus, But there are 200 million Muslims.
That'll cause tribal warfare. We're out of time. So it's just like Iran-Iraq being played off against each other, both sides being funded by the U.S.
It's much bigger.
Yes.
It's huge.
It's not 60 million and 20 million.
Bigger.
It's not 60 million
and 20
weapons
million. On both sides.
It's hundreds of millions against a billion plus.
And nukes on both sides, which in the case of the Middle East, you absolutely.
And then that's the Brookings Institution and others coming out, and Rand a few months ago saying we need a world war, something on that scale. Okay, Webster, thank you. We'll talk to you in a few hours back in studio. For the balance of the show, the 14 minutes or so we have left, Webster Tarpley for round two. We ran out of time. You know, we covered Obama. We covered the Queen taking over Canada today. Yes, it's in Reuters. We're not kidding. Showing she rules. When it finally comes down to her being thrown out, she says, I rule. Boom. Parliament, you're gone. Huge. So when we rebroadcast coming up, you'll hear that the first hour. We got into Mumbai. You've got the floor. Break down why this is a clear intelligence operation.
Well, it's the Obama policy of bashing Pakistan, dividing it into 5 or 6 parts. Remember, Waziristan, Sindh, Punjab, Baluchistan, Pashtunistan, and more and more. The immediate framework, the U.S.-Indian nuclear deal. So the U.S. has a nuclear alliance with India. On the other side, the urgency to get out there and stop the Pakistani-Chinese alliance, which is building up. You've also got. That's
right. They were getting friendly, making deals for the first time in decades, just magically.
So that's got to be stopped. The other thing is the Pakistani military, fed up with the constant Obama policy, because Obama's the one who demanded it, the bombing and killing of Pakistani civilians by these predator drones in the northwest area. I mean, imagine. Suppose they came around here and started killing people. You'd get your backup pretty soon. So the Pakistani military had cut the supply line at least once, saying, look, you want to get your truck convoy up into Afghanistan? We're stopping it. No trucks for the next 2 or 3 days. So this was a big shock for the Anglo-Americans and for NATO. And finally, Gates. Gates in position at the Pentagon. Now, I described...
Founder of Al-Qaeda.
Founder of Al-Qaeda, part of the conspiracy to take the hostages in Iran, and part of the October surprise. So as dirty as can be. And this guy's now confirmed, right? This is the new face of hope and change is Robert Gates. Now, I would say it's 5 or 6 components in the Patsy operation, because this is obviously false flag. The British, colonial power with British presence reported, people from Brixton Mosque, Finsbury Mosque, British prisons, Leeds, Yorkshire, whatever it is. The U.S., the CIA outposts in the federally administered tribal areas, recruiting patsies, recruiting terrorists there. The Israelis, big Israeli-India special relation, General Mizrahi's visit to the Jammu and Kashmir, very, very... That's a little bit like Sharon going on the Temple Mount, something like this, right? Big provocation, get them all riled up. There's also the fact that the Israelis are apparently training Indian special forces, which may be why they did such a poor job. Then you get into the raw, right? The raw story, the research and analysis wing, the Indian intelligence organization. Everybody knows the ISI. They've been demonized. U.S. media have never talked about the raw, R-A-W. Raw deal is what you're going to get from them. And they're into going into Afghanistan, picking up crazies there, Mujahideen, whether they are Taliban fighters, and getting them into Pakistan so that they can essentially wage armed civil war against the Pakistani government. So those guys are terrorists, but not the way you'd normally think. Now, the raw leads us then to this world of Hindu terrorism, and this is very, very big. U.S. media never interested in this stuff.
Happens every week, but you...
Happens every week.
But you never hear about it.
In particular, the guy that you're mentioning, right? I think this guy, Karkare, the anti-terrorism boss of Mumbai, I think is a hero of our time.
Who busted a Hindu extremist group army captain really staging the last train bombing, blaming it on Muslims. Right. So he goes in there with his commanders. They all get killed in the first minutes.
It's clear that there were snipers who were given the specific task of eliminating Karkare and 3, 4, 5 of his closest associates.
Because he'd been on the news saying the government's staging the terror.
Saying in particular that this was being done through Hindu patsies, not Islamic, but Hindu patsies. This is a big thing. There's a whole world of Hindu terrorism that they want to deny.
And he's killed during the melee. Hold on, let's continue. I'm going to skip this one.
Free yourself.
I'm skipping this one, too, again, just for internet audience, and we'll come back and finish up. You've got 3 minutes to flesh out the head of anti-terrorism saying it was a government op in the days before, and then they kill him.
And then we go back to broadcast.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is Karkare. Now, he had been investigating the Malagan massacre. The Malagan massacre, 2006, 37 dead. And he had been saying, look, it's not clear that these were Muslims. It's not clear that these were Pakistanis at all. It looks to me more like it's this world of Hindu,
and he bust the army
Hindu
captain.
terrorism.
He bust the army captain.
And the BJP candidate, basically the shadow prime minister of the BJP, the Hindu nationalists, I guess, had come out saying this guy should be fired. There were calls to fire him,
and he was getting death
before
threats.
He was killed. Right. So